I'm at the point where I'm going to work these pleats together, and if you haven't watched the preparing to do the pleat, you might want to watch that first. As I mentioned, to work the pleat, George, do not get in my way here. I'm going to be knitting this stitch and my turning stitch on the back together. So I'm going to insert my needle into this stitch, and I'm going to knit them together. And anytime you're dealing with multiple needles, and I've got 4 here, it's a bit, as they say in the biz, knitsy. And I'm going to slip that one off, and I'm going to slip it off the back. Tough part over. Now, from this point on, I'm going to be knitting all 3 stitches together. So I'm going to insert my needle into all 3 and knit them together. Now, I would be, and you'll see in a minute, I'm knitting these because that is my stitch pattern on top. I really don't care what the stitch pattern is on the bottom right now. But when I get to where that cable is, I'm going to maintain the pattern as established. Okay, I'm going in there, knitting those 3 together, and you can see this is something you want to do when you're not watching television or you have a moment to deal with, because it's, it's always tough knitting 3 stitches together, but when you've got them on 3 separate needles, it's even a little harder. And I'm gonna get those guys off. And see, this is, I'm glad I demonstrated this. A stitch came off the needle on the back. So I gotta put that on, and this is a chained linen, which kind of splits and can be tough to work with as it is. Why not make it harder than you have to? I always say. Knit, and I'm still knitting these 3 together, and you see I'm really taking my time here to make sure I don't screw up. I do not want to drop a stitch. I do not want to knit just 2 together rather than 3. And so I'm knitting all the stitches. I'm getting close to the point where I have my cable, where, just to add to the degree of difficulty, I'm going to be purling some stitches. Now let me kind of, I got 5 needles here I got to deal with. Okay, this is the last stitch where I'm going to be knitting together. And you haven't lived until you've purled 3 stitches together. Okay, so I've got 2 purl stitches here because I've got my cable. So I'm going to bring my yarn in front. I'm going to go into the needle on number 3, number 2, and number 1, and I'm going to purl them together and pull those stitches off. Needle 3, needle 2, and I'm going to try not to split this yarn. And there we go. I got them off. Yay! Now, I've got some more purl stitches to do because this is a cable where I have 2 knits together, 2 purls in the center, and 2 knits on the other side. And so I gotta deal with that. Now, of course, on that inner needle, those stitches are purls, but I don't care. I'm knitting them. Okay, and I'm going to, almost forgot, purl, 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 and there we go. Got to get this purl stitch, purl, 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 got it. And now I'm knitting, knit, knit, knit. Now remember, I have 1 less stitch at this point on that needle on the back, in the center needle. I've got another knit stitch here. You actually, when you place the stitches on the needles, there are 2 less stitches on the needle number 2 because you have to account for those turning stitches. And that's right, yay, it worked out. I've got 4 on the back. Okay, wait a second. I'm checking my pattern here. 1, 2, 3. Purling them together. Okay. Almost done here. Oh, so delicate. I'm going to readjust my needles a little bit. And I've got, oops. When it gets towards the end here, it's a bit difficult, of course, but I'm going to persevere. Okay. Purl, purl, purl. I've got those 3 guys together. Take them off one needle at a time, because when you've got so few stitches, I've only got 2 stitches on the first and the third, and I've got 1 stitch on the one in the center. Oops. And for my next act, I will be spinning plaits. Oops. Okay, I got it off. Yay! So now I'm going to knit, knit, and knit. And if you have different colored double points, you might want to do it. And I'm done with the needle in this center, so I can just take it out. And then I've just got 2 stitches here. And you can see I'm going to have to futz with the tension on this guy when I'm done. There we go. Yay! All done. And there is my pleat. Now again, this is not going to look as good as it is when it's all blocked. And you'll have to look at the photo in the magazine to see it when it's blocked. Now, I got to do the same thing on the pleat on the other side, because this pleat joins here. And that is how you work a pleat. It just requires some patience and careful counting to make sure that you're not, that you've got the right amount of stitches on each needle. And this is going to look, like I said, a hell of a lot better when it is blocked.